The air in the federal courthouse was thick with tension. Outside, hundreds of people packed the steps, holding signs that read, "Justice for Jalen" and "Stop the System's Hate." Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions. Inside, the room was quieter, but heavier. Jalen, a 16-year-old black boy, sat alone in the defendant's seat. His hands trembled slightly. The charge? A minor offense, stealing a loaf of bread. But the punishment? Harsh enough to change his life forever. The judge, known across the city for being strict and cold, read through the papers without looking up. Jalen's mother sat in the front row, tears silently streaming down her face. She whispered prayers, hoping someone would see Jalen not as a criminal, but as a scared boy. The media frenzy made the case explode nationwide. Everyone seemed to want to weigh in. Politicians, celebrities, strangers on the street. But no one had yet asked the most important question. Why was Jalen here at all? Outside the courthouse, the crowd grew restless. Protesters shouted chants, fists raised high. "No justice, no peace," echoed down the busy city streets. Among the sea of faces was Malik, Jalen's best friend, holding a handmade sign with shaky hands. "I'm scared," Malik whispered to an older woman beside him. "What if they take him away forever?" The news cameras captured every moment. Stories of Jalen's struggles at school, his dreams of playing basketball, and his family's fight to survive painted a picture that the law papers ignored. To many, Jalen was more than a case number. He was a symbol of a broken system. Inside, the judge prepared to deliver her ruling. The tension was suffocating. But then, an unexpected rumor started to spread through the courthouse hallways. Someone important was coming. Someone no one expected. A hush fell over the courthouse lobby as word spread. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader from Burkina Faso, was arriving. Known worldwide for speaking truth to power, Traoré was a man who fought for justice in places where few dared. The courtroom doors swung open, and there he stood, calm, steady, eyes burning with conviction. Cameras swarmed him instantly. Reporters whispered in disbelief. Why was he here, thousands of miles from home, in the middle of New York's toughest court? Jalen's mother looked up, hope flickering in her tired eyes. Malik clenched his fists, barely able to believe the man who had inspired millions was now in the same room as them. The judge, who had never shown emotion, watched silently as Traoré took a deep breath and stepped forward to speak. The courtroom fell utterly silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Captain Ibrahim Traoré. No one moved as he walked slowly to the front, his calm presence cutting through the noise like a quiet storm. Traoré looked directly at the judge, then at Jalen. He didn't carry anger or blame, only deep, burning truth in his voice. "I am not here to claim innocence for a boy accused of theft," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I am here to ask you all to see Jalen, not as a criminal, but as a child shaped by the world around him, a child who has been failed, not by him, but by the system." Whispers rippled through the courtroom. The judge's face remained unreadable, but the room felt as if it had shifted, even if just a little. Traoré's words grew stronger. "When a society punishes its youth for small mistakes without lifting them up, it tears its own future apart. Jalen is not just Jalen. He is every child who has been silenced, ignored, and cast aside." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. This country prides itself on justice, but true justice does not only punish. True justice heals, protects, and gives second chances. Jalen's mother reached out and squeezed his hand. Malik's eyes brimmed with tears. The judge shifted in her seat, her stern mask beginning to crack. The judge, known for her cold decisions, swallowed hard. She cleared her throat but found her voice caught in her throat. The courtroom's atmosphere had changed. It was no longer just about a legal case. but a human story laid bare. For a moment she looked at Jalen, really looked, and saw not a number, but a frightened boy. Traoré's words echoed in her mind. The protesters outside, the mother's tears, the nation watching. None of it was just noise. It was a call for something bigger. As the judge leaned back, her eyes glistening, she whispered, "This is not easy." Jalen's voice trembled as he was asked to speak. "I didn't want to steal," he said softly. "My little sister was hungry. We didn't have money. I was scared, and I made a mistake." His words hung heavy in the courtroom. No fancy excuses, just a raw truth that many in the room couldn't ignore. Malik fought back tears watching his friend say what he could not. Outside, the crowd held their breath. For many, Jalen's story was their own. The stolen loaf was more than bread. It was survival. News cameras broadcast every moment live. Social media exploded with clips of Traoré's speech and Jalen's confession. Some called it a disgrace, others a wake-up call. But one thing was clear. The conversation about race, justice, and America's youth was no longer hidden. Jalen's face became a symbol, not of shame, but of hope. The courtroom quieted again. The judge cleared her throat and looked at Jalen. "I have heard many cases," she said slowly. "But today I see a boy, not a criminal. Jalen, your mistake will not define you." She paused, voice softening. "You will be given probation, community service, and access to support programs." Tears spilled from Jalen's mother's eyes. Malik hugged Jalen tightly. Outside, cheers erupted. The city seemed to breathe again. The city erupted. From Harlem to Brooklyn, people poured into the streets, not in protest, but in celebration. Not for a perfect outcome, but for a glimpse of humanity in a system many thought had none left. Old men wept on sidewalks. Mothers hugged their children tighter. Kids who looked like Jalen pointed at their TVs and whispered, "He looks like me." News anchors scrambled to keep up. "Captain Ibrahim Traoré has reshaped a courtroom today," one anchor said, pausing as her voice cracked. America didn't just witness a legal ruling. It witnessed something deeper, a shift. But not everyone celebrated. In quiet offices and powerful circles, conversations turned cold. "We can't let this man interfere again," someone muttered in a room far from public eyes. That night, Traoré sat alone in his hotel room. The lights of New York City blinked outside his window. He opened his suitcase and pulled out a folded, worn-out letter. It was written decades ago by a civil rights activist imprisoned in Alabama. It read, "The true battle is not in the streets, but in the hearts of those who stop believing that change is possible." He stared at it, eyes heavy. For Traoré, this courtroom moment wasn't just about Jalen. It was about a global fight, one he had carried across continents. Suddenly his phone buzzed. It was Jalen. "Sir," the boy whispered, "thank you. You didn't save me. You made them see me." In the days that followed, cameras followed Jalen everywhere, but no one noticed Malik, the quiet friend who had stood by him through it all. Until one night, Malik knocked on Traoré's hotel room door. "I have to tell you something," he said, shaking. "It wasn't Jalen who took the bread. It was me." Traoré's expression didn't change. He just opened the door wider. "I made him promise not to tell. I was scared. But now, after all this, I can't stay silent." The room filled with silence. Then Traoré placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "Justice," he said gently, "doesn't begin in courtrooms. It begins with courage." Malik didn't want attention. He didn't want cameras. But truth has a way of rising. The next morning, a blurry clip surfaced online, Malik standing on the courthouse steps saying, "It was me. I stole the bread." Within hours, it went viral. Some called him brave. Others were furious. Jalen could have gone to prison for something he didn't do. When reporters asked why he kept it secret, Malik's voice cracked. Because Jalen has a future. He's all his mom has. I couldn't take that away from her. The internet paused. Then something strange happened. People cried. Thousands of comments poured in. I've never cried this hard. This broke me. Protect Malik at all costs. Jalen watched Malik's confession on the news and couldn't stop shaking. I told you not to say anything, Jalen said, tears pouring down his face during a live interview. You didn't just save me. You gave me my life back. He stood up suddenly and walked off set. Cameras followed him as he ran through the streets, finally stopping in front of Malik's apartment. Malik opened the door and they just hugged, sobbing. Two boys, broken by the world, holding each other like brothers. That moment became the most shared video in the country. Even grown men online admitted, I haven't cried this hard in years. Back at the courthouse, government officials quietly pushed back. Some said Traoré should have stayed out of American issues. Others feared his influence. But he didn't care. He stood before another crowd, this time at a local high school, surrounded by kids who had lost faith in the system. Don't let anyone tell you your voice is too small, he said. One truth, spoken with courage, can move nations. A little girl raised her hand and asked, Are you going to leave us now? He knelt down, smiled, and whispered, Not yet. There's still more to fix. The crowd exploded with cheers. Teachers cried. Some students later said that was the first time they felt seen in years. Newsrooms shifted. Pundits paused. A new question emerged across America. What kind of nation punishes children for being poor? In neighborhoods forgotten by the system, murals of Jalen and Malik appeared. Graffiti read, They didn't just survive. They showed us how to live. A senator quoted Traoré's speech in Congress. A teacher played it in class. Parents hugged their children tighter. Jalen started writing poetry. Malik joined a youth advocacy group. Their lives weren't perfect, but they were finally living. Traoré sat in a quiet park that evening. Around him, children played. He smiled, then looked at the camera of a young reporter and said, This wasn't a victory, it was a beginning. The next morning, Traoré prepared to leave New York. A long convoy waited. His visit had shaken the country. Before departing, he made one last unannounced stop, to Jalen and Malik's school. In the crowded gym, the boys stood before him, overwhelmed. Traoré pulled out a folded note, the same letter from the civil rights activist, and handed it to them. You two, he said, voice low, carry the light now. Jalen tried to speak, but broke into sobs. Malik stood frozen. The entire gym, filled with students and teachers, went silent. Then a soft chant began. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain. Even the teachers couldn't hold back their tears. That night, a final video swept across YouTube. It showed a montage. Jalen and Malik hugging. Protesters wiping their tears. Traoré walking alone through New York streets, carrying nothing but his coat and that letter. Over the footage, Traoré's voice played. To the children of the world, your worth is not defined by what you lack, but by the courage to keep standing, even when the world refuses to see you. People didn't just watch, they wept. Some held their kids tighter. Others wrote letters to their lawmakers, and thousands whispered, I'll never forget this story. If this story touched you, if you cried for Jalen, if Malik's sacrifice moved your heart, if Traoré's words made you believe again, then don't scroll past. Hit the like button right now. Drop a comment below. Tell me what made you cry. And most importantly, subscribe, so you never miss a story that makes the world feel a little more human. Because together we can build a channel that heals, one tear at a time.